Just
Hi. I know. Isn't this
talking.
better?
Yeah, instead of like, hey, is my mic on?
Yeah.
Does this work? And you're like trying to be animated and you
Yeah.
try and like, you can read the room, right? Like the vibe of the room
Totally.
when you're like in a room. So it's way
Absolutely.
better.
Bethany, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. This place is awesome and we have a lot to talk about. And
Absolutely.
I'm pumped.
Yes. Shout out Instant Teams. We're at the 12 million plus location, which is a military spouse location, free event space for us to use, community space. And so we're able to record here today, which is awesome.
Perfect. Love a good co-working space.
Absolutely. Can you tell us your background first before we get started?
Where do we start? So I'll start with my name and just obviously the basics. So Bethany Taylor, we just recently met on Instagram and kind of connected. We had something we both are passionate about, want to learn more about, want to talk to, want to share with our communities, whether you are a military spouse or just a regular old awesome person rolling around in this world. But Bethany Taylor, and I just recently moved back overseas from Japan.
Cool.
Just kind of hanging out in North Carolina, headed to the West Coast. I founded my business, Iron Soul Trailblazers, in 2018. So I love to put a ton of outdoor education out. I host all-women adventure trips. I'm a nutrition coach and strength and conditioning coach for adventure athletes. So people who love to trail run, backpack, mountain bike, any of those things. And just love to help people just feel more confident in their own lives, whether it comes to their personal safety or making sure they're fueling properly for life, adventure. And yeah, it's fully online, which is great because it allows me to live wherever we want to live because the military loves to make us move. And I get to just kind of work from everywhere, which is, it's nice, but it can be, inconvenient at times, especially if you're like living in an empty house for a little while, or you're like, I don't have Wi-Fi at this place. You're like, oh, just go to a library and start working away. So yeah, that's kind of what I do for my business. And it's awesome. Quick background.
Love it. Okay. So I just told you when the camera was off, but like I had followed you for a while, a couple of years ago on like a different Instagram account that I had, but because like certain jobs changed, like I had to close down that Instagram account and I lost you for a while. And then I kind of wrapped back around to you. I found you through another friend on Instagram and I was like, oh my gosh, Bethany. And I did start to notice that you started posting a lot more about just like independence on the trail, understanding basic safety concerns. And that started to get that kind of merged perfectly in my life. One, because I had been training for a 50 miler.
I saw.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. I don't know when I'll do my next one. But
you'll get an itch back. You'll get the itch back. Once you run one ultra, you just don't really stop. Yep.
Yeah. So I was training for that 50 miler and I was out on a long run, like at a national park kind of near here. And I was on that run like days after, unfortunately, that girl in Georgia had gotten assaulted and murdered.
Yep.
And I had a moment where I was on that trail. I hate to get really serious really soon. I didn't have an incident, but immediately I was running on that single track trail and I passed probably 5 to 6 just single men on the trail. Just little Kelsey trucking along, looking at her pace, getting her fueling plan down. And I had this moment where I was like, I am 12 miles deep. I have nothing. I have no service. And the only thing I had done for my safety at that point was I was really good about texting my husband when I started. In the text, when I started, my drop pin location with a timestamp in the text message in case the text message didn't go through, and the expected projected time done. Like I sent it all in a text. That was it. I had no physical safety concerns. I did not have any type of pepper spray, knife. I did not have any weapon on me. So I was just having these moments every time I would pass them. And I was like, man, my legs are tired. I'm not a sitting duck. But at the same time, I felt really vulnerable in those moments. And it really kind of came to a head. And that at that same time, started following you back on Instagram because I refound you and I was like, I gotta talk to Bethany.
And that's how it happened.
Yeah. And so, recently got my concealed carry class done and I'm going down to the sheriff's office soon.
Atta girl.
Cranking that out. I did get my own, my own pistol. I'm looking at like different home defense techniques.
Awesome.
I'm looking at like, trying to find like a jujitsu, spot to go and roll and learn. And So I have an interest, but I know enough to hurt me. I don't have enough to like be that effective, I would say. And when I started sharing a lot of this with my own community, a lot of women had questions about like, okay, well, what is worth it? You know, what things should I buy? What things should I be aware of? So that's just that kind of kickstarted just this whole conversation.
Very cool. I will start by, obviously we kind of talk about, I always put disclaimers out there. Anything I talk about is not legal advice. It is recommendations. It's always really important to share with check with your local jurisdiction, whatever country you live in, or whatever state or city you live in, county, what's legal to carry when it comes to personal safety tools. And also, I kind of hate that we even have to have this conversation and that I even have to, one, as females, even think about this. The world we live in, unfortunately, does not allow us to necessarily walk around freely and carefree. So that's why I'm such a big advocate for empowering women with the tools to build confidence, that they have the autonomy to choose how they carry a self-defense weapon, or how they mitigate their personal safety or their children's personal safety as well. So always disclaimers, not legal advice. And also, I hate that I have to talk about this, but it's something I'm very passionate about, because it's something I was talking to Kelsey about this before we even started. I have grown up in a family of my dad was a federal law enforcement agent for 25 years. So a lot of this is pretty second nature to me. And I have to remember that too when I'm educating or talking to somebody, because they may never think to, hey, when you get and park into and you back into a parking spot, getting ready to go in the grocery store, take 5 seconds to just look around, observe your surroundings. Some people don't even think to do that because it's not something that they were taught, right? But for me, back in, I make sure the car door is locked and I'm observing my surroundings before I go inside. So I come from a background of this being very second nature. So how can I put this out into the world in not a fear mongering way, but in an empowering way? So you've done what you could to keep your personal safety at the highest level of priority, and your children's. And it's something I'm passionate to talk about. And again, I try and do it in these bite-sized pieces. So it's not like you have to do all these things. You have to carry a pistol. Carrying a pistol is not for everybody. I don't recommend it for everybody, but I'm an advocate of the Second Amendment and being a law-abiding citizen and doing the training, the continuous training required to legally carry a firearm, and you understanding the legal repercussions if you did have to draw and use that in a self-defense situation. So again, I know that got a little like dark, but
I love it.
But I'm here to empower you to take your safety in your own hands, because no one is coming to save you, right away. We are our own first line of defense. We're our own first responders. We have incredible first responders out there that will come in, but they are typically in a reactive situation. So if something happens and it's just us, you don't have help right away. It is only you. So how can you create space between you and something potentially escalating and get help or run or defend yourself until someone gets there to help you? So we don't have law enforcement officers. We don't have people readily available at every corner, right? So in those 1 minute to 5 minutes that we're waiting for help or support, can you take care of yourself? Or do we know what to do if a situation's escalating and that we need to run? How can we use a self-defense tool to create space, create proximity so that we can get the hell out of there? And again, the likelihood of something like this happening is very low, but it does happen, as we see on the news. I do think the news doesn't do the best job. They they like to craft titles of newsletters to make it this thing, but it is a severe thing. There are things happening to women out there that they are undeserving of, that should have never happened to them. But we are here now. Great. This is the situation in life that we're living. What can we do to empower females to take their personal protection and safety into their own hands? Because they're going to have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I even learned on Monday, when I was in my class, they said that a violent attack takes 3 to 5 seconds. you are not going to have a police officer or someone there advocating enough for you, and they know what to do within 3 to 5 seconds. Think about it also, if you're a mother and you have your children, that 3 to 5 seconds can be absolutely disastrous.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to think about, like you said, not everybody may, want to carry a firearm and like what that looks like. And I do understand that, but I do realize at the end of the day, we all have a right to defend ourselves, and we should be understanding our state legislature so that we can, back ourselves. Okay, we have so much to talk about.
I know
we can continue.
And I didn't even talk about trail safety, because that's my jam.
Okay, so I was going to say,
that's like my bread and butter.
Let's hit that first.
Yeah. But they are very interchangeable. The precautionary safety tips in things that we do, and even our self-defense tools that we carry on trail, it's very applicable to in the real world. I hate to say this, but this may like ruffle feathers, I actually feel safer on trail than I do walking in everyday life. And yes, sure, I don't have service, but I carry a Garmin InReach with me. It's just you and one other person on the trail. I'm making eye contact. I'm walking confidently. That person knows I saw them, and they're like, oh, she's got it figured out. She's paying attention. She only has one headphone in. Cool. I'm not going to mess with her. The likelihood of something happening on trail is very low. I will always say that, but it is not a 0% chance. Most men that we pass on trail are harmless. They're out there, rep their own. I think of my husband passing another female on trail. He loves a trail, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Like, hope you have a great day. He would be there. He would help that female out, that woman out, if something were to happen, in a heartbeat. But those aren't always the people that we do cross. But can we be vigilant on trail? Can we be situationally aware to see something escalating? There are pre-incident indicators that help us see that person doesn't pass the vibe check. Not at all. They're either making way too long of eye contact, or they're ruffling with something in their pack when they're running next to you. You can feel when things are off. Your gut is number one self-defense tool, your intuition. It is free. You don't have to carry it because it's always with you. And you can usually tell if when something's off, and that's when you keep going. That's when you stop and turn around, or that's when you go find another group to run with if you're out by yourself. So yeah, that was a baby tangent.
No, absolutely. Okay, we'll start with the hiking, camping, trail running atmosphere, and then we can move from that. That will bleed into probably some of our my escalation of force questions that I have. That's just like everyday life stuff. Okay, so first question, I got it like 3 times from my community, was like, you kind of hit on it. Where is the line drawn between just being generally situationally aware and being paranoid?
So out the gate, if you haven't been practicing being situationally aware, or you just listened to a true crime podcast before you drove to the trailhead, stop fucking doing that, people. We are making it so much worse for ourselves by listening to that. But there's Cooper's, believe it's Cooper, condition colors of situational awareness. So we have white, yellow, orange, red. If we're in white, this color code, it means we have no idea what's going on, right? And then red means we are hyper alert. Something is happening, something's going down. The goal is to live in yellow, which is, hey, we're relaxed, but we know what's going on. We know there's someone coming up a trail. We heard someone coming behind us. We're vigilant. White, a lot of people live in the white condition zone, which the goal is to be in yellow. White means you just are kind of oblivious to what's going on.
You're on your phone.
You're on your phone, you're farting around.
Yeah.
You're like, somebody comes up the trail, you don't even look who it is. You don't even keep your head up, that type of thing. Our vigilance can go an incredibly long way. But people are either in white and they have no idea what's going on, or they're just paranoid about everything. And I think a healthy level of skepticism is allowed. I think we're allowed to be kind of on our toes.
Curious.
You're curious.
Yeah.
You got but if we have our eyeballs up, we're looking, most people again are just going to pass us when we're hiking, or they're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
If you don't want to talk
to basics, look at people in the eye.
Making eye contact. Okay. Yeah, making eye contact in walking or running with a tall chest and with confidence, even if you're faking it, is one of the greatest deterrents, because the likelihood of success is what assailants would look for when trying to pick a target, right?
Okay.
The likelihood of them being successful in carrying out whatever they want to do. But if they see somebody who made eye contact, who's potentially has a pocket knife or pepper spray on them, and they're like, oh, okay, she's got a self-defense tool. Great. She looked at me. She said, okay, you can even say like, hey, good morning. That's it. Let them know you saw them. And again, walking and carrying a tall chest. We don't want to look not like meek, but we want to look like come mess with me type thing. They're like, oh, the likelihood of success of me fulfilling whatever I went out to do is low with that person. Cool. I'm going to move to the next person. Hopefully they just get off the trail and you never see them again. So eye contact is a huge deterrent. I know it's awkward for some people to make eye contact. It could literally potentially save your life.
I am so obnoxious with this. I look them dead in the face and I say, hey, how's it going? What you doing today? You doing all right? All right, great. Have a great day. Oh, I'm so aggressive. Yeah. And my husband has even pointed that out before. He's like, you don't have to say, I'm like, no.
I need to let him know that I saw them.
Oh, yeah. I remembered everything about your outfit. I remembered everything.
Also, two things from that. Noticing what people are wearing. One, if something were to happen, as just a regular old dude out trail running, and you get to the end of the trail, you're like, hey man, this guy hasn't come back yet. He was supposed to come back yet. We think he got hurt.
That's a good point.
Then you're able to be like, yeah, I saw him at the corner when I turned left on whatever trail it was. That like a positive identity. Hey, he was safe at 11:03 when I saw him. One, and then also, if you happen to see that person again in the parking lot, if you happen to see that same person again later in the trail, you're like, this is a little peculiar. Why am I seeing this guy twice?
Why did they turn around? Why did they?
Yeah. Yep. So just a quick, it doesn't have to be Kelsey's into stare downs. If you want to stare somebody down, you can. But it's like, all right, cool. This guy's got a blue hat on and he's wearing a yellow shirt. And you don't need to know what color his eyes are, right? But, oh, short brown hair. Cool. Man, I saw that guy again around the corner. Or he's sitting in the parking lot. He got done the trail the same time as me. Boom. Information that we're always collecting little pieces of data. And this can be done in the real world too. Like I was literally at the grocery store and I made eye contact with a lady. She's pushing her cart, finding some ice cream. I saw her at TJ Maxx later that day. She had no idea that we were the same person. But I was like, yeah. I'm not going to be like, oh, I saw you earlier and be like weird. But it was a quick processing of information. And if, again, that was maybe a male that was following you around or something happening, you now know, man, I saw you earlier. Why are you here again? That type of thing. So totally. Eye contact, keep your chest tall, run, walk with confidence, say hello, let them know that you saw them. If they start engaging in conversation and you don't want to engage in conversation or they ask you something, hey, I'm not comfortable asking that, or I'm not interested in talking. Fucking period. You do not have to say, I'm sorry. You don't have to explain. If they're talking to you and not passing the vibe check, let them know. Just give them a quick, hey, I'm not interested in talking. And then you keep going. Or you can lie about what you're doing. If they're like, oh, you're out here by yourself. I'm like, oh, no, husband's coming up the trail. He's off going to the bathroom. And you can be whoever you want to be on trail.
I saw that.
You like my post I did?
Bryce.
Yeah. I am Bryce on trail. I'm Bryce out in public. My husband's name. Everybody knows that. And I lie all the time. If I'm traveling solo, which I do a lot for my work, I'm there. I'm staying with my brothers. Get in the Uber. I make a fake phone call and I say, yep, just got in the Uber. I sent you the contact or the information of the Uber driver. Can't wait to see you soon, Bryce. Can't wait to see you soon, John. Make some shit up. Let them know that you are coming to said destination and you know what time, and that person hears you, the Uber driver. Likelihood of something happening is very low. Again, I would rather you take these little precautionary steps.
Absolutely.
That you may have to practice a few times before you get comfortable, remember to do them, but it could be a deterrent. The goal is to always deter. We don't want confrontation. We don't want conflict. The goal is to never have anything escalate. So what can we do to create a verbal space between us or physical space between something happening?
Yeah, that I heard that was like kind of a pillar to self-defense is like kind of not only like the escalation of force and knowing like what you should use in that moment and not, but also just like the physical space and parameters that you have between you and the person and whatever, item you have on you can create more space, less space. I'm assuming these are just like my assumptions. So is that something that, not only on trail you are paying attention to, you're obviously going to be running past each other ideally. So hopefully you're creating space. But in the unfortunate chance that space starts to become smaller, let's talk about items that are the average gal would feel comfortable using.
Cool.
And if they feel comfortable using a firearm, we can then go that direction. But let's talk about just like simplicity you can go buy at like Dick's Sporting Goods today.
Yep. Screwdriver.
Okay.
I would joke about that one, but I'm actually dead serious about it.
I was going to say,
dead
well,
serious.
I'm putting it in my pack. Okay.
I was at my grandmother's house up in Maine, and I carried on all my items. So there's nothing I could bring with me personal defense wise. So I went in her toolbox and I grabbed something, and I was like, okay, this is what we'll use.
Your item.
This is my item. This is what I choose to carry.
That's
so
cool.
I carried a screwdriver around. Well, I was like, okay, it's kind of weird, but also like, I love you. And I'm so glad that you chose that. That
now,
was awesome.
I have to ask the question, did you tell your grandma you were doing that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. She was a Bethany. What? You don't need that. I was like, you're this big. This lady is 4 foot tall. She's 85 pounds soaking wet. I was her private security detail all weekend. I was like, I got you, honey.
With a screwdriver.
With a screwdriver.
Amazing.
Yes. But so one thing I will say is I do have a very extensive blog on this, which we can post in the show notes.
That'd be great.
And the goal when I'm presenting information is to meet people where they're at when it comes to carrying a self-defense tool, right? Because again, different backgrounds, different experiences, what you're comfortable with, what you have access to in your country, your state. Can you legally carry a knife concealed? Can you legally carry pepper gel? Do you live in New York City or New York? You can't buy it there. It had, like do you have to, you have to get it from like a specific dealer. So we have different tiers of self-defense tools. And then there's going to be non-lethal and there's going to be lethal. One is, hey, let's create space. Let's create proximity. This tool can't necessarily harm or take someone's life. Lethal can. Big difference in what you're comfortable carrying. And again, I don't think everyone should carry specific tools, but we'll get to it. So the spectrum starts with nothing that we physically have to carry. It's not even a tool. It is a tool, but it's not a physical tool. It is our intuition, our gut, our eyeballs, our vigilance as to what is going on around us, and space. And noise is the other one too. So instinct, trust it. If the gut's off, you don't have to know why. If something feels off, get out of there, turn around, go home, keep going, call somebody, join another group of hikers, or find somewhere out. If you're out in town, go somewhere where there's a public space. And then space is your friend, right? You want to continue to have as much distance between you and something potentially happening as possible. Whether this is standing behind a park bench, whether this is going behind a rock, if someone is closing the space, you don't want them in your bubble, right? That's the goal, is to keep them back. So you can even say, hey, I need you to take a step back, stop coming closer. That may deter them. If not, you may need to physically step back. You can swing a water bottle, a hydro flask, just something to keep that distance so that you can either run, hopefully run. The goal is to avoid it at all costs. So hightail out of there if you can. And then another tool is noise, which is a big deterrent. If something is happening and an assailant is coming towards you, whether you're on trail or on the street, they don't want attention drawn to you. They want to be quiet, and they don't want other people to have eyeballs on you. So this can be Birdie makes a personal self-defense alarm that you can keep in. I will say, if you're ever carrying a tool, it needs to be accessible. It is useless if you can't grab it within 1 second. It's useless if it's in your pack. That's not going to do anything for you. So if you have a personal alarm, you can keep it on the front of your pack and you can yank it off if you need to. Obviously, if we're out on trail, it's going to be a little bit different because we are in nature and outdoors and there may not be close, but this is great for street application, rescue.
Also your voice though.
Your voice.
I'm sure you'll get there. Just
the noise spectrum.
Yeah, totally. And I'll just preface the only thing I know coming from this is just like when I did, just in the military, they teach you shout, show, shove, shoot. So it's like kind of that similar stepping. So maybe it's like shouting, like creating space, like get back. Like that's also noise.
Obnoxious. Be loud. No, you can act like a damn. Honestly, if somebody is trying to get in your bubble, go be weird. Like pretend, or if somebody's like passing a weird vibe check, pretend like you're talking to an invisible friend. Like, I swear to God, it's like such a weird thing, but they're not going to want to mess with somebody who's like weird.
Yeah.
Again, you can lie and be whoever you want to be out there and you can just act full. But yes, shouting, yelling, even if you're using use an aggressive voice, even if it starts trembling because you're scared, use an assertive voice. And then, yeah, like an emergency whistle. So Rescue Me makes one. They're bright orange, and I have all the links and everything for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, if you guys want to look at, it's great for on trail because it's loud, and also it can be used for SOS if you get on trail.
Okay.
So a lot of safety stuff is personal defense, but also navigating what to do when we're out on trail and making sure we have enough food and enough calories. But we're kind of more towards the personal safety really on this podcast. But emergency whistle is very loud. You can SOS if you get lost, and you can blow on it if something's happening. And if you are on trail or you are out in public and you hear a high pitched whistle, look around. Someone is likely needing help. Don't just pretend like it didn't happen, because somebody could be out there. And if you now know what to listen for, you can look around. Is there a commotion happening? Is there something happening in a vehicle or around a vehicle? You could potentially be there to see something happen or help somebody.
And also most running packs, like I know my Solomon, it has it embedded in the pack too.
Yep.
So if you already have a running pack,
yes,
for sure, look for that and know which pocket it's in.
Correct. Trail running packs, a lot of hiking packs have it on these straps, so it can just be easily blown. And again, if you have one, always keep your self-defense tool, whatever it is, on the front of your pack, easily accessible. So those, so your voice, creating space between you and that person, your intuition, those are kind of the tools that are not, again, non-lethal. They're not, they're like our situational awareness is in there
and
too.
they're always with you.
They're always with you. If we can pay attention, if we see something happening, go the other way. Completely avoid it. Even if you have to change your plans, if you're late for something, go the other way. And then we kind of get into those more, again, physical tools, like the whistle is one, but it's not something that can really inflict harm.
Yeah.
So then we go to the pepper gels and pepper sprays. Those are typically what you will see most women carrying. And it's a great option. However, have you ever used it?
Most women is no.
They may not even know how to push the button. So they make training pepper gels and pepper sprays. It sprays water. And they're like $6. Buy one, go outside, shoot the fence. Shoot somebody in the eyeball. It's water. You need to be, because it is useless if we don't know how to use something. Just like, again, carrying a firearm. If you don't know how to shoot at close distance, or you're not comfortable drawing it from whatever holster you're carrying, it is useless to you. So if we carry pepper gel, pepper spray, practice using it. You need to keep it somewhere close. Some of them you can wear handheld. Some you can attach to like your pack. Some have visor. I have one in my vehicle, and it's a visor clip. So it's right in my vehicle if I need to. That is an option. I prefer the gel over the spray. The gel can go further. And it's more like concentrated versus a spray. You're cool. We're going to have a big wide bubble of the ingredients coming out in the chili peppers. But there is some potential for blowback if we're outside. So the gel is this more concentrated thing. Practice using it.
Which was a question I got multiple times from moms who are concerned about using pepper spray because they had kids with them.
Yep.
And they didn't want their kids,
pepper gel is going to be the more optimal option. Is there potential for Is there potential for some blowback? Yes, depending on where we're at. But if we're inside, it's going to be a little bit different than outside. But again, if you're a mom carrying one, I do not have children, so I don't know if we're on body carrying with your child, is your carry in the stroller, the situation is. But if you have one, you need to make sure it is very easily accessible and also away from children's hands. That's huge. So it needs to be on your person, preferably on your person. That's going to be like the safest place for it. There are some, so Sabre makes a smart technology one where if the pepper gel is deployed, or pepper spray, I can't remember which formula it is, 5 of your emergency contacts get notified.
Nice.
Which is really cool. So if that goes off, you're not able to make, you're not calling 911 right away. And you may not even you may be trembling so much if something happened to call. But 5 of your emergency contacts are notified, so they know, oh, the button got pushed. Like, where's Bethany? So that is kind of the most popular, common one that you will see. Please practice using it and keeping it in a safe position, especially in your pack. You don't want it just sitting in the bottom of your purse because it could deploy on accident, and it is useless because, again, things happen fast. Can we see potentially pre-incident indicators that can let us know, oh, I'm going to go this way? Yes, because the goal is to never have to use this self-defense tool, ever. And then next we kind of bump up to something sharp. So this can be the sock P. This can be a pocket knife. This can be Atomic Bear, I believe, makes a like tactical pen. This can be a screwdriver. This can be something that you could potentially poke/stab somebody with. This is getting into that lethal zone. This is getting into the, do you properly know how to use it? Great, we're carrying this thing. Are we going to be comfortable pulling it out and potentially striking someone's flesh? I hate to say that, but and again, you may not know the answer to that until something did happen, and you're like, oh wow, I don't feel comfortable using this, and that's okay, because you don't know until you don't know. But if you do carry something sharp, great. Have you practiced pulling it out of your vest, your hydration bladder? Have you practiced pulling it out of your pocket? Where are you carrying it? Are you carrying it in your appendix? Are you concealing it? Can you get to it readily? I personally prefer, this is one of my preferred self-defense tools. I carry it on trail with me everywhere. It may or may not be sitting on my person.
Yep.
So yeah, that's another one. And then
let me just caveat that too. Something that I did learn again in my class on Monday, the concealed carry class, which I was like, I need to think about this, was guns and knives in the state of North Carolina are in the same category. So if I were to have to use my knife on trail, I have to have all the legal terminology, like a perfect self-defense. I basically, can't be the aggressor. I have to be an imminent threat of death or sexual assault. All of those things. And for example, like I kind of give the caveat maybe is like, which we're kind of going down another rabbit hole, but like,
I think that we're going to enjoy the rabbit holes.
Okay, good. I like rabbit holes.
Like, let's go.
I, in my head, assumed that a knife was a middle ground product and that firearms was the end state, right? But legally, they are the same. So I was thinking, okay, Kelsey, great that you were being vigilant and wanting to put something in your running pack. Great. But also, did I know did I know the legal ramifications of carrying it? No, I did not at the time. Did I know that, other than being able to deploy it and use it, did I know anything else about it? I can't say that I truly did.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
Which is probably most people.
Yes.
And so that's why I just felt like the guy at the class was just saying like, you should have not only like a middle ground option, but also potentially a lethal option. And it's great to have a middle ground option because maybe it's not an attacker, but maybe it's just like a hobo who's running after you. Or maybe it's a guy who's, he's just like being a dog. Right? Legally, you cannot stab or shoot a dog.
And I don't want to.
No, and you don't want to. I'll spray the dog, but I'm not going to shoot the dog. Right? Correct. So I think those are like those weird incidences where it's like, okay, great. I may have my firearm on me, but am I going to deploy it? I'm not. But now I don't have a second option.
Correct. Yep. And you can always have contingency plans, some redundancy built in. If we did carry a firearm, if we're very comfortable carrying, concealing, can legally do it. Great. What's that next tier down? So that pepper spray or pepper gel is kind of that sweet spot for a lot of people. It feels a little less scary because there is a lot of fear around more lethal options if we don't have necessarily the education or experience. But like you said, if we're out on trail or public in public, and you're like, man, I don't want to draw. The last thing I would do is draw my firearm. I will do everything else before that thing comes out. But yes, that is again, they fall under depending on the state.
Yeah.
So always go to the local police station and ask. Go ask them. Go online. Everything is readily available on government websites as to what you are allowed to have. And please don't break the law because that's just like the last thing. Oh, it never happened to me. And then you're still carrying in a state you're not allowed to. Do you have reciprocity in that state? You may not. So you are not legally allowed to carry a firearm. If something happened, great self-defense, but you are legally carrying. Or it may be I lived in Japan for a year and a half. No firearms, no knives bigger than 6 centimeters. Did I feel like I needed a self-defense tool? No, because Japan is very safe. However, I bought a very small Gerber pocket knife and I carried it with me because you just never know.
Sure.
But yeah, I call it the spectrum. You have this autonomy to choose what you are comfortable carrying, and you may start out by trying to become more situationally aware.
That may be just the first step.
Start there.
Yeah.
Go from condition white to condition yellow. We're relaxed, but we know what's going on. We know what car is parked next to us in the parking lot. We backed into our driveway so we can see what our neighbors are doing. We're on trail. We're making eye contact. That can go so far. But we do have this potential message that we're reading of you have to buy a gun. All females should carry guns. I don't believe that, because that could potentially turn into something worse if we don't have it properly concealed. What is your level? Do you have an external safety? Are you in a Kydex holster locked into your weight? Like, there's so many things that go into. There's a lot that goes into it. So yeah, there's a spectrum for you to choose what you're comfortable with, and it falls wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, sharp objects that we could potentially stab, slash. There are no rules. If someone's attacking you, if something happening, there are no rules. You fight dirty and you do whatever you can. Eyeballs, inner thighs, make it. It can be something quick so that you can get out there. You're not going to be in a fist fight with this person, right? They're going to make it something that's quick and take you off guard potentially. Do what you can to inflict some sort of pain, create distance, hightail out of there.
Which was something that was like a pillar of my class on Monday that I was like, okay, this changed my perspective. Because in the class, again, and especially in the military, it's like, you just unload your magazine, baby, But at the same time, it's like, the reality is like, you're not trying to necessarily kill them. You're trying to stop the attack.
And you hope that you don't.
Exactly. And morally and ethically.
Correct.
You're then reckoning with that. But the idea is like, your goal should be to stop the situation and leave.
Get the fuck out of there.
And then call EMS, right?
And you hope someone else is around you and has called if something is happening, instead of the bystander effect.
Totally.
That somebody thought, oh, I thought you called 911. I thought you called 911. I'm like, if you ever... Yeah, that's a whole tangent.
No, totally. But going back to the knife, it's like, your goal maybe not to stab to kill this individual.
It's a quick swipe and you get out of there.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Which feels more manageable.
It does. Also, you're not there doing hand-to-hand combat with these people.
No.
And you are just doing what you can. You slice Achilles, stab him in the calf and run. Leave your shit there. Don't worry. Obviously, if there's children involved,
of course, but
and push them out of the way. You figure out what's going on, and then, but yes, so preferable self-defense tool for me is something sharp. And then we get into there's no middle ground between so pepper spray, something sharp, and then we have a firearm. And
would you feel comfortable talking about firearms that you would suggest women looking at? Or is that just like, go rent them, go try them?
Yeah, it's not in a negative, it's a very loaded question. Yeah. Because do we have any experience with handling a firearm? I don't think we should shoot a firearm at all until we have touched a blue gun, which is the fake ones, fake firearms, to get comfortable. And do we know how to tell if a weapon is loaded? Do we know if one is in the chamber? Do we know how to drop a magazine? Do we know how to clear a firearm? Those are really important steps that we should learn before we even pull a trigger.
Sure.
Personal.
And we can talk about the process of doing that next, maybe.
Yeah.
Would love to talk about that. Like, just the steps of like, okay, so should they go down to how do they do that? Do they go to the range? Do they rent do they take a class? Do they, we can talk about that.
Yeah. But going back to your question about what to get, I definitely recommend going into an accredited range, or a gun shop, whatever it may be, in talking to somebody who, if someone's just trying to shove, hey, here's this Glock 19, here you go, buy this. It's a great gun. Like, that's one I have. But that's something I'm comfortable shooting a 9mm. You may start with a 22 to get comfortable. And then you may upgrade, and what level of there's different calibers of ammo. Like, I'm not going to carry 45. I think that's overkill. I don't need that. 9mm gets the job done. It needs to fit in your hand really well. If you have tiny hands or big hands, the guns are going to be very, like, how big is the grip? Do you need to adjust the grip? Some have extended grips. So there are a lot of things that can feel really overwhelming. So if you know somebody who is a gun owner that knows what they're talking about, go talk to them, and take them with you, so that I know, like, female going in a gun shop, like, oh, you want the pink gun? We're like, no, bro, like, I want
want the revolver. It's like, no, I don't.
You don't
Please
need a
do
revolver.
not.
Please do not get a revolver. Are they fun to shoot? Yes. Do not get a revolver. Please. If you like pink, cool. That's what you're into. Go ahead and rock and roll. But
don't do it.
And then making sure, I will always caveat this. If you do purchase a firearm, if you own a firearm, you need to make sure it is in a legitimate holster anytime it is on your person, and you need to make sure you know all of the rules legally. You need to make sure you're shooting it regularly, because it is useless. It is a perishable skill. If you are not behind the trigger shooting regularly, it's nerve-wracking, and it's something that, again, do you remember, do you keep one in the chamber? Was it in there? I always do. But what about you? If you don't like it in there, then you go to pull the trigger, you didn't
rack it.
You didn't rack the slide. So then it turns into, but carrying one is a huge responsibility. And I cannot emphasize that enough. If we do carry one, I personally do not carry one on trail.
You don't? Okay.
Ever. Nope. It is very hard to conceal, and it's very hard to run with a firearm.
That was like my main, I was just trying to wrap my head around how I would do that.
It's very difficult.
Okay.
And if you're wearing a vest, and how do you keep it, like, your vest bounces around.
Totally.
Also, if you are in a situation that is very close quarter usage, can you drop fast enough, and do you know how to fire at close range? It's actually very difficult versus 5 yards away. That's more our speed, right? But this is where it's going to happen this close. We are 3 feet away. Can you draw your pistol and make that thing happen? So yeah, I personally don't carry one on trail. Some people might, if you're hiking, maybe, if you're into that, because you're not like running, but like, also, I don't want to carry a fire on me when I'm all hot, sweaty.
No, I was thinking about
concealed? Personal preference. But out in public, it's a little different. We can appendix carry in our waistband. We can carry off body with a crossbody bag. But again, how fast can you open your zipper and draw your pistol? Are your children around? What is your safety protocols for making sure you're carefully carrying when you have children around? You may get in a situation where it just doesn't make sense to use it, even though you're carrying it. If something's happened, are there bystanders around? What's behind that person? Are we comfortable enough shooting? Is it, if we aren't comfortable enough shooting and it recoils and then we jam, then what? So this isn't to deter you from, this is really just a continued emphasis on education and understanding the legal ramifications if you do decide to carry a firearm.
Absolutely. And we can keep talking about that.
Yeah.
To wrap up the hiking and camping section, is there anything else in a pack just for first aid and safety wise that you always carry? I just purchased a tourniquet. So I was like, I'll probably put a tourniquet either in my, my glove compartment.
Yep.
But like anything like that.
Yeah. So
what would you suggest?
I have another, we can link this, the 10 essentials. The 10 essentials are the things you essentially need to carry with you at all times think about, if we have to stay overnight for some reason, we get injured, we get lost, something happens. Can you keep yourself warm, fed, and dry overnight? So this looks like, the 10 essentials. So we have illumination. So that's some sort of a headlamp or flashlight. Great, we're going during the day, but what if you get stuck and make a wrong turn, and next thing you know, it's 10 p.m. and you're trying to hike out in the dark? Light. I love an emergency blanket for warmth and shelter. So we always need to carry something for shelter if we need to put it over our heads, if it's raining outside, if a bad storm comes through. A bright orange emergency blanket is perfect for that. There's redundancy. There's dual use for it. It's great for signaling too. If we have a helicopter come to save us from the sky, we can hold a bright orange blanket up and they're like, oh, found her. Like, she's right there. Always carry adequate food and water. Those are part of the 10 essentials. Some sort of a multi-tool. It's typically for repairing gear, but I actually bleed it into that self-defense tool of for me personally, carrying a knife. But a multi-tool is another great pokey option. There's some sharp stuff on it. And then we have always carrying a map with us, whether we're downloading, always carry a hard map, take a picture of the map at the trailhead, always download a map.
Which you can't.
offline.
I download the Google Maps offline
Correct.
of the area that I'm going to go run in. I always download
Perfect.
that.
I love that. All Trails Premium. If you get a discount, I have a code.
There you go.
You can download maps offline to use, which is super important. Another one is sun protection. So people don't think about, oh, it's like cold outside. Well, you can still get burnt. Or if we're going to higher elevation, and navigation is another big one. So if we don't have service, do we have some way to communicate with people? I have a Garmin InReach. It is an expensive piece of gear.
Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so Garmin InReach is a satellite phone. So it allows you to communicate with whoever's on the other end, text messaging wise, when there is no service. As long as you have a clear view of the sky, it uses the satellites in the sky to send communication, text messages. There's an SOS feature that will contact the closest, contacts a big dispatch, and then it finds where you're at, and then it contacts the local emergency services there. It might be a sheriff's department, might be a fire department, might be search and rescue, depending on where you're at. I cannot stress carrying something like this enough, because if something were to happen and we're 12 miles into the backcountry, no service, you roll an ankle, hypothermia, or if God forbid, bear attack or something like that.
Really?
How are you going to communicate with somebody? You have no way. You just hope someone else comes down the trail. So it's about $300, but it is the best investment I think somebody can make in terms of their safety.
Garmin InReach.
Garmin InReach. They have Spot, which is another one. I think it might be a little bit cheaper, but I'm a Garmin girly.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the big ones. But in terms of safety, map, know where you're going. Bring more food and water than you think, because that is a huge thing. If you don't have enough calories coming in, if you get dehydrated, it's very difficult to start to feel better unless you can go off trail. So I have I have a ton of educational stuff on the outdoors that we can link as well.
Okay.
Safety wise.
No, I will. Yeah. I'll take you up on it. That's awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about trail?
So much to talk about. But
I know.
Like, I have so much.
Okay. So
that's my jam. But we can link a ton of things
and we could potentially do a part 2.
Yes.
Let's go through clear cut, step by step, the order of priority. And I know you've already touched on it. You've said situational awareness.
Oh, yep.
Then you've said, create space, use your voice.
Yep.
And I think having like a step by step understanding might be super helpful. Yeah. With this overarching idea that we are trying to get the heck out of Dodge. That's the whole point.
Always.
So can we go step by step of like, if someone's approaching you and let's say you have the wherewithal,
the spidey senses going off.
You have the senses. Okay. And then let's go from the most basic, hobo is just verbally harassing you.
Yep.
All the way to you have been attacked, and not only are you calling 911, but like, you have to use your firearm, you have to use your knife. Then we can talk about like legal ramifications. What do you tell the police?
Nothing until your lawyer's there.
This is what I'm saying.
You don't say
a thing.
Nothing until you get a lawyer there.
Which I learned all of this. After I became a USCCA member. So do you mind going through that step by step? Okay. So let's go very basic. Obviously, situational awareness.
Can go a long way. Big deterrent. You can see things happening. You can get the hell out of there, or you can start to create that space by backing up, going to link up with a group of people. Don't get on your phone and pretend to phone call somebody. Like, that's not going to work, because you need to be paying attention.
Sure.
So situational awareness and space, those are huge.
Okay.
Eyes up, get off your damn phone, put it away. Don't scroll and walk. The text message can wait, guys. Like, please, please, please. If you need to, go against a wall so you can see what's in front of you. Send the text message or phone call. We are a very distracted culture. Get off your phone. It can wait. Starting there. And then if spidey sensors are going off, great. We can either go across the street. We can link up with another group of people. Hopefully people are paying attention and they see something happening and they're like, oh, if I saw something on the street and some girl looked uncomfortable, I would go pretend like I knew her.
Oh, for sure.
And I would go intervene. So
let's say so you've noticed the person.
Yep.
They've noticed you, you noticed the person. Now they're like 30 yards from you and you can tell that they're kind of honed in on you.
Yep.
I'm assuming then that's when you start using your voice.
Yep. Or if maybe,
or do you
if
run?
They're starting, so I wouldn't necessarily just run right away.
Okay.
as the space gets, if they have their hands in their pockets, if they're like mean mugging you, like, great, those are red flag. Like, that's when we grab our self-defense tool, or that's when we go to the side of the street, or we run. I don't know how fast you are, but like if you're on trail, we have a little less options because we're on single track, or we're getting our whistle. And even if that person doesn't end up doing anything and you kind of cause a scene of, but you'd rather do that than get to the point where their hands are on you or something has happened. So yeah, space is huge and we want to utilize it. And then we get to the point where they're really inside of your bubble. We're again using our voices, deterrence, and that's when we can potentially.
And this sounds so silly, but like, what are you saying when you're shouting? Like, I'd be like, I would be like really aggressive with my hand, like, no, stop, get back. Like, I would be
hands up.
Okay.
I know it's like no one can really see this, but we're putting our hands in front of us. We're in a power position. So just potentially like we're shooting as well. We have one foot back. So if they come to push you, you're not on we don't want to be on our heels because that's when we can fall back in that power position, saying, no, don't come any, like, use your voice, like yell at that person. Don't come any closer. I'm not interested in doing this, or whatever it may be. Like you can, no as a complete sentence.
Sure.
Just stop. No. Do what you can, like, so that and hopefully someone's coming, or if you do have a birdie alarm, we can pull that. Just create a scene. And it is very situational too, as you know, like, and what
it could be anything.
It could be anything.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next step was like, they continue and you have to use a lethal form.
Yep.
Yeah. So then you use it. And successfully.
Yes.
You have stopped the encounter.
Yep. And either that person runs, or you make some sort of a slash or strike or a pepper spray, and you haul ass out of there. You run downhill, you should have a general understanding of where you're going if you are on trail. Whether downhill is going to be a little bit faster because you don't have to climb up a hill.
Sure.
And then you can start blowing a whistle, calling for help. That person's down. Obviously, like, I hate, it's going to be one of the most terrifying runs of your entire life.
Oh yeah.
If you're running out. But you gave yourself precious seconds. Seconds matter in situations like this, even 5 seconds. And you're probably more fit than that person. So get out of there. Go run. If you have service, get it while you can, or hit your, on the iPhone, you can hit your emergency, the side button 5 times or the top 2 buttons 5 times, and it'll call emergency services. If you have service, do that. Hit your SOS if you're on a Garmin, just to know that a dot was sent to, like, oh, something is happening. Run out to the trailhead, get help. Or if you're out on the street, go find somebody. I mean, go bang on somebody's door, which might be a little bit alarming to them. But if I saw someone frantically, and then, or once you get to law enforcement, you get a lawyer, you call for a lawyer, ask for a lawyer, and you don't say anything. Yeah. They're going to ask you if you're okay. Like, yep. Or you might need medical if you got hurt. But you call your significant other, you call your mom, and you call a lawyer, especially if a legitimate self-defense action was taken.
That was something that was interesting, is like when I, with the USCCA, they gave us like a card, and the card is like when you talk to the police officer, or sorry, not even to the police officer, to the dispatch. First you say like, I've been attacked.
This is who I am.
Go ahead.
I
was going to say, I think this is who I am. I've been attacked.
I used self-defense. I used force.
I need EMS. And then when they get there, I believe the first thing you say is, I need immediate medical attention and I need my lawyer.
And you hold fast to those. You're going to be an emotional wreck. Probably you're going to be shaking. You might be nauseous. This is something that could happen, but hold fast to that. Get the help you need. And they're probably going to try and talk to you. What happened? I was attacked. And
unfortunately,
and you hope that that person that you go get them. Like, you need to go get the guy.
Unfortunately, this was like kind of the more alarming part maybe of my class, is just realizing like you could be in the most vulnerable state of your life. Absolutely. Right. But if I deployed my firearm and I don't talk to police very well, that individual is still represented by a lawyer who will do everything in their power
to twist the plot.
And that's why I'm not telling the police officer, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did. Because it's sad because you are the victim, but at the same time, of course, they're going to use everything against you.
Yep.
So what's your, I don't want to dabble into anything you're not willing to talk about, but like, that's a real part of owning, understanding, using a firearm. Yeah.
Yep. We've talked about the highest level of responsibility to carry a firearm, and deploy it and pull the trigger, and what your life is going to look like after that, especially if you will be in a legal battle for a very long time. But if your life is worth saving. If you are in a position to defend your life, and you will know, you're like, this could potentially be something that escalates into a not good thing for me. The legal side is the tricky part. We think, I defended myself. You have to prove that to a jury. You have to go to court. You have to, and you hope that they, even though they were completely in the wrong, that assailant or whatever happened, you still have to go through and explain everything that happened. And they could try and twist it. They could, the lawyers, that's their job, is to defend their client.
Yeah.
Even though they're the ones that were at fault. You hope that is a quick and swift thing that does happen. And it can be also, if we're out in public and cops get to the scene, you still have your firearm in your hand.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'm actually the victim here. When you make that phone call, hey, I have my firearm. I'm wearing a blue shirt.
That's right. That was part of it.
I was the victim. I'm not obviously waving it around, but and hopefully you're out of the situation and you can stay on the phone with the entire time.
Yeah.
Like,
so basics, firearm, like, you deploy your firearm. Obviously you are then putting it back in your holster. Are you?
Yeah. I would put it back.
What would you do?
I put it back in my holster. I'm not going to leave it on the ground. I'm not going to wave it around. I'm not going to carry it. And then I'm going to go sit, and I'm going to go stay on the phone. And hopefully there are people around you to support you, because it's going to be terrifying.
It's going to be terrifying.
Yeah. And I hope this never happens to anybody, but I do believe it's important to do scenario-based thinking. Whether this is you practicing, being aware of what's going on. Hey, if something were to happen, just walking down the street, we're going to grab coffee at the coffee shop. Situation, some dude walks across the street, stands in front of us. What do? Let's just role play. Let's just play through that, right? Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's think about it. Because if we can expect to know what to do, like in our own brains, it helps us be more confident in our everyday life if something were to happen. So scenarios are great. You can play situational awareness games, especially if you have kids. I Spy. That's two more set of eyeballs. If you have two kids,
that's good.
Paying attention to what's going on. So it's not always you, because you are the one that's your head's on a swivel the whole time. But play I Spy with your kids, even with your significant other. You guys have a series of 10 questions. Like, great, we went and parked. We're going in Outback for dinner. Hey, Bryce, what color was the car that we parked next to? Will Bryce know the answer to it? Yes, he will. My husband will. He's the same as me. So we're like, oh yeah, we knew exactly where we parked. So create, like, it's kind of scary to think about situations that may happen or may escalate, but the more information, education, power, thorough thinking, and forward thinking, that allows us to feel more confident in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of women, think of the worst offense that they have to, deploy their firearm, or they're thrashing around trying to do whatever. But the reality is like, don't quote me on this, but you're probably more likely to get your butt grabbed at a spot, or you're more likely to get heckled by a
catcalled.
Ignore it. So it's like,
put your head down and ignore it. Do I want to hope that they fall in a hole? Yes,
of course.
Or maybe get like,
but is it worth the altercation?
It's never worth the altercation for me. If we, even like me and my husband out, if we see if something's escalating, we're not,
goodbye,
bye, we're out of there. Especially with his job and with the legal ramification, everything's on the line. Yep. So avoid at all costs, create space. The last thing you want to do is deploy some sort of a self-defense tool. It's like the last thing. So, but things are going to be happening fast. You may just do what feels intuitive to you. And like even our physical fitness is a
absolutely
self-defense tool. It is a safety tool. Body awareness. If we're a lifter, if we're Olympic lifting, if we're running, we just we're more mechanically sound to know if something happens, coordinated, being physically fit is going, if you need to pick your kids up and hightail out of somewhere.
Yeah, can
if
you do that?
Need to sprint to avoid something. Can you sprint? What shoes are you wearing? Like, I like to wear closed-toe shoes if I'm out doing certain things. If I'm in flip, I'm not saying like don't wear sandals, but just know if something were to happen, like kick your sandals off and like you need to run.
Yeah.
Like, don't leave your damn sandals. Like,
which like this sounds
I know that's
so
like
pessimistic. No, but like how many women, I know we work in like fitness spaces, so like this is a little bit biased, but like legitimately in the regular world, how many women can sprint 100 yards? Not that many.
Not many.
Not many.
I would love if that wasn't the case.
I know.
People are starting to
and
run
we're getting
more,
there.
I know we're getting there,
and I love it. And I don't want to be a pessimist, but like that's something that's so true.
Your physical fitness is something that could potentially save your life. You don't have to be a pro power lifter or an ultra runner, but do we have these functional training capabilities to be able to pick up our kids, to be able to potentially grapple with somebody if you need to? You're like, again, you're not going to get in a fist fight with somebody. That's just not going to happen. But do we have the wherewithal to know what our body is doing? Can we, if someone comes behind us, do we have the ability to shrug and have strong shoulders and traps? Like, just stuff like that.
No, it's for real.
Yeah, your physical fitness is incredibly important in our safety, I believe. So I'm a big advocate for training in general for life, being fit for life. But if you need to run, sprint, if you ask me to go, hey, you need to go run 5 miles for help, I'd be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
totally. Okay. So let's say someone is fit, a woman's been working out for a long time, but now she's taking that next level in order to feel more capable in herself and her hands and being able
jiu-jitsu.
Okay. So can you talk about that? Yes. Like, what should we be looking for? Is it worth it?
I know.
Like, let's talk about it.
Yep. So doing some sort of self-defense, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, any of those things is another expense, and I understand that. I think taking a self-defense seminar or course is awesome, but once a year is not something that it needs to be practiced, right? But if we did want to start on the lower barrier end of things with body awareness in strength, working out, getting in a running, a preferably hybrid training, some CrossFit, like whatever you're into.
Yeah.
That's a great place to start. And then, great, do we have the time and potentially financial it is an expense. Do we have the financial means to invest in a jiu-jitsu class or membership? That's going to be I would choose, if I had to choose one for someone to do, it would be jiu-jitsu because of the body awareness. Again, if we're fighting, we're not going to, again, I'm not knocking kickboxing,
but that's not what you're going to be doing.
None of that. Like, if that is something you love and enjoy, hell yeah, go for it. Can we kick and strike? Cool. We may need to be in a position where again, you're not like punching, but like striking.
Sure.
Jiu-jitsu, I personally think has the most real world application. If we need to get on the ground and we need to use our legs are our strongest part of our bodies, get on the ground and work on specific grappling positions or getting out of a precarious position. If somebody has you in it, like up against a wall, like, okay, what are we going to do? So jiu-jitsu would be something that I definitely recommend. It is intimidating to go because you see a bunch of black belts, dude, rolling around like cauliflower ear. But they're probably going to be like, I would love to teach you. I would come into the class. Look for a female beginner class. Look for an introduction class. Look for a female-led class. That's just, I mean, if you don't mind getting trained by a dude, cool, go for it. I wouldn't mind getting trained. Like a male, female doesn't necessarily bother me. But if you're more comfortable, if you're like, go to like a gi-less class, so you're not wearing the white gi, and just go learn fundamentals of rolling. Just going on the mat, open mat, and then you can start to meet a friend. You guys can start rolling together. So yeah, that's possible. If not, being physically fit and having a ton of body awareness can also go a really long way too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've thought about getting into jiu-jitsu. I know I have a friend who's she's a female, obviously, and she's a cop near here, and she does a lot of jiu-jitsu, and I think
especially for law enforcement, a lot of stuff's on the ground. You're not standing up. It's going to be like, and I want to get brought to the ground because I'm going to be stronger on the ground in that position personally, and then we can obviously get up if we don't have tools with us.
For sure,
your body is a tool. Fight like hell. Cool. No, kick him in. You know what?
Everywhere.
No rules, guys. It is a free for all out there.
Yeah, my friend, the one that's the cop, she was on cops within the first week of
No way.
yeah, on what was it, on
whatever
parole,
show,
like patrolling,
whatever show,
you called it. Yeah. She was the very first week that she was on the show. Yeah. Slipping crazy, but good for her. I mean, she's amazing.
Especially as we're smaller built humans.
Yeah.
You know, how can we use it to our advantage? How can we use I think we're so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. There's some people out there that don't give them credit for what they can do. And great, you may be small. You may not have an arm, a big, wide arm reach, but great. And you may need to train a little bit differently because you have a smaller stature.
Sure.
But any training is good, right?
Yeah.
And we have to remember that a lot of these things are perishable. So how can we make sure that they are incorporated into our lives as frequently as possible, to just keep fresh on the skill set, you know?
Yeah. And I did tell you when I was going through like my basic officer schooling, I had the opportunity to complete the Army Combatives level 1 course.
Yep.
Which I was so grateful that I did. Like I learned such cool stuff. It was an 8-week course. It was so hard. Normally it's like a 1-week course. It's
8
like
weeks
it was 8 weeks. It was a lot. Like every morning, Monday to Friday, 4 to 6 a.m. Like it was gnarly, but it was
what you learned.
I learned amazing things. And so I'm not discrediting the course whatsoever. I loved it. I would do it again. I would go to level 2 if I could. Yeah. But the reality is like the number one thing that I learned in the class, I think the class was like 60 people. And I think there were only 3 females in the class.
Okay. It's a big class.
It was a big class. Was like we would roll and have different like percentages of like aggression that we would use. Like, okay, like let's practice this technique at 10%. Let's practice this technique at 50%. Everything, right?
Yeah.
Just flowing.
Yep.
I don't know the terms you guys
We're going to use flowing. We're flowing.
Yeah. Okay. You're rolling, you're moving, you're grooving, all the things. Then I realized quickly that when we would start ramping up the percentages, my 80, 90, 100%, I was getting crushed. Flippin' crushed. And so that's not to discredit the course. It's just, it was a realization moment when I was graduating the course. I had to, do a hold on a guy who was like 6'5". He knocked the wind out of me in 2 punches. And I was like on the ground. Yeah. And I had just done 8 weeks of training where I thought I was so confident. I knew what I was going to do. And I was like, okay, love that I learned this. Yeah. But to be a real world application, I'm going to need to account for my petite size. I'm going to have to figure that out.
We're at a disadvantage. Yeah. And I hate that.
Yeah.
Again, I hate that we even have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
See, like this is the last thing I want to talk about. But I don't think this stuff is talked about enough.
No, I don't think so either.
And I think it's a taboo subject. Like I'm even afraid to put some of this on Instagram because Instagram's going to flag it for being whatever. I'm like, we need to and then what other avenues do I have to educate, Yeah. I am working on another facet of my business will be more self-defense, personal safety oriented. It's just a matter of like building a curriculum out for that. And what does that look like in person? Does it look like virtual?
Cool.
So just know if you're my Instagram follower of mine, you probably never heard me talk about most of this stuff. So welcome to the inside of my brain in my life.
I love it.
And there are things that I just don't want to post on.
I get it.
Even saying the word firearm and on Instagram, they're like flag.
Totally.
People have to say the word pew, like a pew pew. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
I know.
I get there's like some really poor information that goes out, but like this is something that I think needs to be talked about more specifically and in a realistic conversation, not like go get a gun and then you have to shoot every single day for 5 hours a day. I'm like, do we need to use it? Yeah, we need to use it regularly, but we need to be like, we're human beings too. But we need to be realistic with like our time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can do you have anything else actually before we transition to home defense? Did you have anything specific?
I don't think so.
Well, I actually had one question for you, just like out of logistics. Why would somebody choose to open carry versus concealed carry?
I hate open carry.
Just the reason why, I'll preface, I was at the grocery store. I
have thoughts on this.
And a gentleman who looked, I'm not being
you can
judgmental.
It's me.
Okay. He looked rough around the edges. He was wearing a black wife beater tucked into his pants that were very oversized with a belt on. And
it's good he had a belt on.
He was good. He was had a belt on and he was open carrying.
Yep.
Like so aggressively flopping around, but in a black wife beater. So like literally just like,
Yep.
and I was like in the ice cream aisle and immediately, and I'll preface, I'm from California.
Oh,
so
I never want to live in California.
I know. And I had not seen a gun until I was in college and I went to school in Virginia. And I remember the first time I saw someone open carrying, I thought I was going to poop my pants because I just didn't know anything about weapons in general. So I still had that moment last week when I was in the grocery store and I was like, this individual, I'm sorry, does not look like he is ready to have my back.
And how fast do you think you could grab that pistol from him? You could accidentally bump into him and I could pull that right out. Like that.
I know.
But yes, open carrying.
So can you talk about that?
I would love to.
Okay.
I have lots of opinions. But for the listeners, so there is open carrying and concealed carry. Each state has different laws about if you have to conceal carry, which means conceal it. It has to be hidden in, you cannot know that you are carrying a firearm. It needs to be concealed on your person, around your waist, or in a fanny pack, or a crossbody bag, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Open carry means it has to be fully visible. So you are open carrying for the public to see. It is on your hip. Mm-hmm. It's wherever you want it to be. I think people open carry to flex, to I'm carrying a gun. Mm-hmm. Don't mess with me. Even though they probably, I think it's just like this ploy thing that I don't believe in it. I don't want anyone to ever know I have one. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you see me in public, you probably know I have one. But I'm okay. Like, that's okay. But if I'm out and about, like, no one knows I have a firearm in me.
Okay. And that's mainly the advantage of that is just
if I go into a 7-Eleven and I'm a bad guy and I see some dude standing at the counter open carrying, first target, because he has a firearm. He is the person that may stop me from being successful in my robbery or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I don't think open carry should be a thing.
Okay.
People who do it, I just kind of scoff at it a little bit. I'm like, dude.
Is there a reason for a state to allow open carry but not concealed carry?
Question.
Like, is it just because it's like everything's in the open? Like, I think
there is this perception that if everybody knows you have a firearm or you're carrying it, like, it's okay. We don't want people hiding it. Oh, you don't want to hide it. Most people don't look at us and like, oh, there's no way they're carrying a firearm. And then you're like, hold on, fuck with me.
I know.
Yeah. I don't actually know how that works if states choose about concealed carry versus open carry. Advocacy for concealed carry. I think there should be greater reciprocity in certain states. Okay. There are certain states I can't carry in with. I have 2 concealed weapons permits for Tennessee and Virginia. I can't carry in specific states. They just don't. So reciprocity, for those people who don't know, if you have a concealed weapons permit in, say, North Carolina, there are a great deal of states you can also carry in because your concealed permit is recognized by that state. So when I go to Washington, I cannot conceal carry there until I get a Washington permit. So it's going to go away. It's going to get locked up. It's going to be put away until I can legally get it.
Okay. So logistics question as a military spouse. Okay. Because here's my deal.
Yep. Ask away. I know all the answers because I did all the research.
Okay, great. Because I'm in the middle of it. I'm a Florida resident because my husband is from Florida. We do that because there's no state income tax.
Tennessee resident.
Great. Okay, so
we did live there, but I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah,
hey, I'll get this. Okay.
Yes.
But, I live in North Carolina, and I was trying to apply for my permit through the Moore County Sheriff's Department online, but it said I had to have a North Carolina driver's license. Yes. And I was like, I ain't getting one.
Yep.
Because that's just not what you do as a military spouse. You don't get 10,000 different licenses.
I would get one every year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not going to work. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to physically go down to the sheriff's department and
fingerprinting too.
I will have to, do the fingerprinting. So it was my understanding, and people at work told me, as long as I show them maybe like my husband's orders with my marriage certificate, with a bill with my name and my North Carolina address, I'm assuming?
I'm a resident here. So I had to sign to even register my vehicle in North Carolina. I had to get a notarized forms for being military because I'm not a resident. I'm not becoming a North Carolina resident, but I've been here for 2 months. I need to register my vehicle here. So there's a lot of paperwork. They should unfortunately, some people, if you're a military spouse listening, the chaos that comes with trying to taxes and where do I live? Where do you register your vehicles, jobs, like all of the things that come with moving. They should have a checklist online of what you need to bring in saying, I live here, I reside here, I went through the course, and it should be how it is. You just have to, it should be online. But every state is very different.
It's different.
Some are easier to get. Some you can do online. Some you have to take in-person courses. Some you can take online courses. Some require a 2-day course. Some require a shooting qualification. It really just depends on where you live.
Okay.
And you're allowed to get like concealed carry permits in states that you don't live, but the paperwork required is more. So a lot of people get like the Utah concealed carry because it has a wider range of reciprocity. You don't live in Utah, but if you have one, you can carry in more states outside of what you normally could if you like were a Tennessee resident and have a Tennessee concealed carry.
That's true.
So there are like 3, it's like Utah. There are 2 other ones that like give you a couple more states.
Yeah, I think North Carolina has like 38 states.
It's a lot.
It is. Yeah, it feels like a lot.
Yep, it's a lot.
I think it's like everything but like California, Oregon, Illinois,
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, and like New York.
Massachusetts.
I think Massachusetts is weird. Maine's a weird one. So as always, for the listeners, do your research. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt when you don't have residency somewhere. You're like, I technically live here though, but you have your orders. Here's where we're stationed.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, sorry, before we go to home defense. And also, I don't even know our backstop time. Do you have other things going on today?
Let's just keep rocking and rolling.
Okay, cool.
We're talking.
Is it worth getting a membership with USCCA if you were to purchase a firearm?
Yep. So you'll have people who are like, don't believe in the USCCA and they're like, oh, they're just people trying to get money. And there's some people who do believe in it. And so the biggest thing with the USCCA is you get self-defense insurance. I can't get it because I'm going to be living in Washington. And the state of Washington doesn't recognize self-defense insurance. They think it's fraudulent. Whoever the commissioner is.
I had no idea.
So yeah, I moved back from Japan. I was like, great, I'm going to get there's like 3 states. Washington state is one of them. So we have a lawyer buddy that will be on retainer.
Sure.
Yep. So I believe if you are carrying a firearm, you should have some sort of self-defense insurance. Concealed carry safe, and then USCCA. There are a bunch of them. It's essentially like if you have a membership with them, yes, you're paying monthly, but if something were to happen, you would have a lawyer representation for that self-defense that specializes in self-defense. If something were to happen, again, you say, here's my card, you can call my lawyer, they will take it from here. They specialize in people who have been in cases. They just actually they kind of just updated what they cover because there was a couple things that were missing. Like if you lost the case, you'd have to like pay all the money back or something like that. People are like, what the hell? Like, what's the point? What's the point? I think they got a lot of pushback.
Oh yeah.
They just recently updated it. So I would be getting it if I can't get it at all.
Oh, crazy.
I can't.
So you have to pay every dime.
Yeah, or we have our lawyer.
Or your lawyer,
that helps. Yeah, but look, again, it's not cheap. So if you are carrying a self-defense tool, specifically a firearm, and even like a knife, I definitely recommend looking into some form of self-defense insurance to cover you if something were to happen.
And I found it to be very affordable. I thought it was going to be way more expensive than I thought.
Like $19.99 a month. And I know that, and again, everyone's financial situations are different, but if you're purchasing a firearm, you carry a firearm, you shoot a firearm, you probably have a little bit of potentially disposable income to be able to. And I think they should go hand in hand.
Agree.
If something were to happen.
Cool. Okay.
So yes, and they have a ton of educational stuff on the USCCA website, tons of educational things that you get with your membership. So the more education, the better.
Yeah, I'm really excited about diving into their classes. I just got it on Monday and I was like looking at the list of all the classes.
Tons.
So many.
Tons. Yep. It's cool.
About it.
Yeah. I like it. I'm an education forward person.
Absolutely. So. Cool. Okay. So I'll set the scene on the home defense here.
Okay.
So so this is Moore County. Welcome to Moore County.
Yes.
I'm sure you're familiar with Moore County.
It's just a small little county.
Yeah. It's a little small county, but it's very, concentrated with important individuals live in this area, which means we attract a lot of international views, international interests to this area. And in December of 2022, we had one of our substations go down. It was attacked here, and 45,000 people were out of power for 10 days.
I remember when that happened, and I was like,
where were you when
in
that
Japan?
Happened? You were,
And I was like,
girlfriend.
And my preparedness radar went off. I'm like, let's go.
Call me a prepper. Don't even freaking care.
I don't even care.
In that moment, immediately, I was like,
contingency plan.
Immediately. Yep. This is the apocalypse.
Yep.
What's happening?
This is also stuff I love to talk about. Yes. We can nerd out.
Okay. Let's keep going. Okay.
You guys have no idea, the audience that's listening, the shit that goes on in my brain. I can't share all of this on Instagram. There's just and there's stuff in my life that I keep, obviously, personal.
Of course.
But yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Grid went down.
Grid legit went down, Bethany. It was insane. I was in Lowe's. With my husband. The entire Lowe's power down. We're like in some random, it was like 9 p.m. at night. Dark, pitch black. Could not see in front of you. In Lowe's, okay? So then all of a sudden, so we're looking at each other and we're like, that's weird. And to be fair, Duke Energy is flipping terrible around here. So I know. It goes in and out, right? Yep. So we were like, that's weird, but no generators kicked on. That's strange. We go outside, no parking lot lights are on. Interesting. We drive home, no street lights are on. Nothing's blinking. Nothing's on. No sound. No lights.
That's
nothing.
The cool part is the sound.
It's silent. No hums, no buzzes, nothing. We drive home and we get a notification from Duke Energy saying, "Oh, it won't be until the next morning." We're like, okay, no big deal.
Somebody hit a
pole, whatever.
Hit a pole.
Wake up the next morning, got a message saying your power will not be on for another 10 days. 10 days.
Yeah.
So a lot of people got the heck out of Dodge. And the base pretty much like closed, like most of the people on base. The base didn't close down, but a lot of people live in Moore County and commute to the base. Correct. So the commanders were like, yo, stay home. Like, you need to figure this out. So immediately, what am I doing? We're buying a generator immediately. We should have had a generator first. We did not have one at the time. We went and bought the generator.
I'm glad you got it before they sold out. Or people started fighting people for
it happened. It happened. The second thing that was so freaking freaky was that the power was so down that we did not have gas. No gas stations.
And so even generator
is gas.
It's gas.
So what did I have to do? I had to then drive 35 minutes out of town, hoping that I wasn't going to run out of gas, to get gas, to fill my car with gas, get gas cans, come home, fill the generator. Try not to lose everything in my refrigerator.
Perishable.
Right? Yep. So there was so many things. Safety. First of all, physical safety. We didn't know what was going on. Yep. The whole town was like the apocalypse happened. No gas. At the time, I did not have a propane Blackstone. Now I have a propane Blackstone. I didn't have a generator. I didn't have a prepped pantry.
Yep.
I had camping gear and I had a single burner. So I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm living off of. Rice on my single burner, on a cast iron. Good thing I love camping. Awesome. But immediately in that moment, I was like, I have no pantry. I have no firearms.
Yeah.
I have no gas.
Fuel. Water purification.
Fuel, water.
How much water do we have stored?
Everything. Yeah. I didn't have a dang thing besides camping gear.
Yeah. Which is a great, honestly,
which is a great start.
You're a great start because you actually have a lot of things that you can use
for
emergency preparedness.
Yeah. And I will say, being in the military, Chad and I both were very comfortable, like living grungy.
Correct.
So we were like,
I don't need to shower.
No.
Don't waste the water.
I was fine being uncomfortable. Yep. It was more of the realization of like, I'm a literal sitting duck. And also, good thing we don't have electric cars.
Also, if you have a Tesla, good luck charging it.
Good luck. Yep. Yeah. Like the gas went down and I almost ran out of gas. And I'm like, I still feel incredibly vulnerable. So it kind of kickstarted this idea.
This is a perfect scenario I hope people learned from.
I hope people in Moore County learn from it, because there has been more and more and more and more things popping up in the news that people are paying attention to or they aren't paying attention to.
Yep.
But I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go get my concealed carry class. Yep. Okay, I'm going to buy a generator. Okay, I'm going to...
What does water look like at our house? Do we have some stuffed up water? Do we have a water filtration system?
Yep.
Do we have batteries? Do we have lighting? Do we have a first aid kit?
So let's talk about it.
Yep. I love this shit.
Okay, so and also preface, I just put my first order into Azure Standard, which is like a bulk, it's like a bulk bulk dried goods.
Oh, great. Okay. Dried goods are awesome.
It comes in next week. So I'm kind of revamping a pantry. It's like a prep pantry with also the water, the filtration, the pot, the pan, all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of working on that.
Items. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go over basics.
Yes. So you may not know this. I am part of the Red Cross Disaster Action Team. Cool. So I started doing that when I was in Japan, and it was really for if something happened, tsunami, earthquake, we would be there to support. But nothing obviously happened, thank God. Well, it did on the west coast of Japan. They got rocked. But it was more like education around building out go bags. If you need to leave your home, can you survive for 3 days out of a backpack with these items? What does your home preparedness, emergency preparedness kit look like? So the basics, you have to think of sanitation, food, water, shelter. Sanitation one is very often overlooked because if someone gets sick or you can't flush your toilet and you need to clean your hands, you don't have running water.
That's what was the situation.
Yep.
And we live on a well. So like we didn't have water.
Yeah.
We had no water.
Yep. It's crazy that happened. Yeah. But I hope this made people think of the bigger picture of what could potentially happen. And again, same with everything else. I would rather you have these things and know what to do than it happen and then you'd be like, shit, we don't have anything. If you have 3 kids, how are you going to feed them? You don't have any food. You have 1 box of Lucky Charms in the fridge and all your freezer stuff goes bad. But anyways, sanitation is one. First aid. So do we have those over-the-counter medications? Do we always have our own medications available? If you are taking medications, how can we always make sure we don't get down to 1 pill left? Because
you're thinking,
if you can't go to the pharmacy,
pills, you're thinking contacts. You're thinking, okay,
just things that may keep you alive. Oxygen tanks if you're living with senior citizens. So yeah, sanitation, first aid. Remember that your first aid kit items expire. So if you have a first aid kit, great. Also, open it up. What the hell is in there? Do you know what each of the medications potentially does? Do you have basic knowledge on how to clean wounds or how to bandage things?
Do you have a kit that you recommend people buying, or do you recommend them building it out themselves?
So I recommend building out, but you have to know what to put in.
Okay.
That's the problem. So they do make like pre-made first aid kits. Most of them have everything that you need. So just buy a pre-made one. Those are great. I actually have one in my vehicle. I have one in my go bag and I have one in my house. So I have 3 layers of, again,
prepared
kits for wherever, if something were to happen, carry a tourniquet in my vehicle because that's the place that I'll most likely use it. If something were to go down, if I'm carrying firearm, I always carry a tourniquet with me as well. Gauze is another really great one if you need to pack a wound. But yeah, sanitation, first aid, those are huge. Know what's in them, make sure they're not expired. And then what does water look like? Do we have ways to purify water? Great, towers go down, then the water system gets contaminated. Your water gets contaminated. Did you fill your tub up before that happened? So you have water. Is there enough water for the whole family? Being dehydrated is a surefire way to not feel great. Do we have different tools like iodine tablets to purify water, bleach, water filtration systems, like handheld ones if we are a camper or we go hiking or trail running, water so we can keep water in our homes in jugs or in like water containers, or we can make sure we have some sort of purification system. And then next we have adequate food. Can you survive in your house for a week on food? Most people cannot, especially if people maybe don't cook at home a ton or they eat out a lot. Like Uber Eats isn't going to be delivering. The pizza shop down the stairs, down the way, it's not going to have power. Do we have dried goods available? Do we have, every time we go to REI or an outdoor store, we buy a couple extra dehydrated meals. We always have. Those things last for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So they just sit and they travel with us wherever we go. They're great for camping and backpacking, but also it's 2,000 calories. You can get 2,000 calories in one of those containers. But then also if we have that, do we have some way to cook our food? Do we have a propane tank that hooks up to our grill? If you're on gas, like that's great, but like what if the gas line busts? Like we don't have gas. So having propane tanks or little like the jet boil fuels that go in the camping stoves, those are great for boiling water. That's another way to purify water or cooking meals. But then dried goods, obviously, I mean, you have like your canned beans and like think high calorie foods. or things that you can cook, or things that are non-perishable that can give you a lot of bang for your buck. So that's another big one. And then communication. Do we have two-way radios? Do we have hand crank radios? How are we going to stay up to date if the cell service goes down and we can't use our phones? How are we going to know what's going on? How are we going to check the weather? I carry my Garmin everywhere with me when I'm traveling on road trips and for emergencies, because I know I'll be able to get some sort of a comm signal out to somebody or text somebody if something were to happen, or if Bryce isn't home, like, and we're separated, something happens. I can let him know, hey, I'm good, I'm coming back, or I'm coming home, or he can ping my Garmin. So those are like the basics. I'm actually working on a blog on building out go bags as well. Nice. So those go bags are the bags that you have readily accessible in your home, that if you need to bug out, is what you will hear people say. If you need to get the hell out of wherever you're living because of a natural disaster, flash flooding, hurricanes coming, if you need to evacuate, forest fires are another big one. If something's coming, you need to get out of your home. Do you have what you need in that bag to be okay for 3 days? All of my birth certificate, passports. If you have children, all of their medical equipment, medical paperwork and passports need to be in there, because if your house burns, if your house floods, you lose all of that. So all of that lives in my bag.
So you make copies, I'm assuming.
Yep. So I actually keep my originals. I do have copies too. And there's that conversation. Do you put those in a fire safe so they don't get like, I just keep mine in my go bag. Okay. But if I kept them in a fire safe, I would know. I have a note on my go bag that say, grab documents. Everything's in a folder, grab it, put it in the bag, and you can get out in 10 minutes. So in those go bags, they're going to have some flashlights are another big one, headlamp, candles, something in your house. If we don't have power, like, how are you going to see anything?
Oh my gosh, Bethany, that was another thing where I was like, we immediately were like, great, get the camping gear. Okay, we have headlamps. But I was like, I don't even have candles. Like I have headlamps because of camping. I have 2 headlamps. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like,
well, are they charged?
Are they charged? Do I have extra batteries? So many things.
I know. Yep.
And I was like, I don't even have candles.
Most people don't even have flashlights at their house that works.
I know.
If power goes out, we always think someone's coming to save us. We always think the power will be turned right back on. What if it's out for 2 days?
What if it's out for 10 days, Bethany?
For 10 days. What if the zombies come?
What if you don't have a toilet for 10 days?
Right? Like, where are you going? Where are you going to the bathroom? That's a serious.
There's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yep. So illumination, lights, really great. And then the go bag, again, that's that bag you're taking to go to a shelter, evacuation site, or going to a secondary location, or going to a friend and family's house. Again, food, water. We need to have some sort of medical devices in there, communication, kind of all of those things that you'll have in your house. You also kind of have them in a bag. Important documents are going to be the biggest thing. If you have a dog, do you have dog food? I have Chance has his own baby go bag in the bottom of my bag. So if I got to go, that dude's coming with me. Kids, do you have diapers? Do you have formula? Do you have things that you can grab? Because when shit hits the fan and you need to get out of your house, what are you going to bring with you? Grabbing the kids is the most important thing, right? But do they have food for the kids? Do they have some toys? Because is it cold outside? Do they have blankets? Do they have, like, is it summertime? Do we have electrolytes? Do we have enough water for the family? Also, speaking of gas, what does your gas tank look like? If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me post about this. Gas tanks need to be half full or a quarter full at all times, because if something happens, you need to travel 100 miles outside of a safe zone.
That's literally what happened with the gas station. Yep. I was already in the red when this happened. This happened. My husband was like trying to figure out stuff for work. I was trying to figure out stuff for work. We also were not communicating very well because it was like a very tense situation, right?
You're like, what the hell's happening?
I know. Yeah. So in the moment, I'm like, okay, I'll just figure out my stuff. He can figure out his stuff, because it was just like so tense, and he had so much going on with work.
Yeah.
And so then he was like, Kelsey, how are you going to get to work? You're going to run out of gas. So what did he have to do? He had to drive 35 minutes, get a gas can, fill it up, come home, fill up my car so I can make it somewhat to work to go get the.
Yeah. But you will never let your gas tank go that low.
No.
Yep.
Not
it's just
anymore.
Again, that's just not something we think about until we think about it, or something happens, or someone told you saw it, like, oh, I should probably keep my gas tank half full. Because if you're running low, you're going to go to the closest gas station. So is everybody and their brother.
Yeah.
Is there gas left? Do the pumps work? Are they only taking cash? Do you have cash? I think everyone should be carrying cash with them, because if cards go down, yeah, they ain't gonna take Apple Pay. They're gonna be like,
which is another thing.
Cash.
Yes, if
You can't
all
buy
of our
shit.
electronics shut down,
How are you gonna pay for food? How are you gonna think a check? You could do a check. I carry a folded up check with me. It's in the car in case I need to write a check for somewhere. Again, things I shouldn't, as a 32-year-old, shouldn't think about, but like,
yeah, but it's the truth.
I will always know I have what I need if I need to get out of Dodge. And so, yeah, having dog food available, stuff for your kids, having your gas tank half full so you can get out of the area, go to a further away gas station, completely bypass the 50-person line of shit's probably going to go down too, because people need to get gas and people are filling up gas tanks and it gets a little weird. Allows you to get out further. Those are kind of like the big, the big ones.
And also probably having a plan of like what's your
emergency plan.
I
didn't talk about.
Like, where's your next step? It's like, okay, something goes down. I'm going to hit my parents' house, which is 3.5 hours away.
Am I going north? Am I going, which way is the storm coming? Is there wildfires hanging from the west? Having an atlas, having a map.
I was just about to say, I need to buy some physical
2025 map. Yep. Because if you're driving, you're like, oh, comms are down, GPS is down.
And my phone died.
Power banks are another important one. Where am I going to go? And you pull up a map, you're like, cool, if I head east on 40, and then I can take whatever to here, great. I'm going to get to this little tiny town, and I'm going to pay for a motel, and we're going to stay there for a little while. And then you go to the store and you start buying some things to stockpile, because we have 3-day go bag. We have stuff in our vehicles. I have emergency preparedness things in my vehicle in case something did happen. Like, that's another layer of preparedness. And again, this isn't something that you're going to have all together right away. Like, you don't have to buy all these things right away. Sure. Every time you go to the store, just buy a little bit of this, invest in a good flashlight, buy a couple candles next time. Go to the dollar store, buy candles from the dollar store, lights. So little stuff like that. Like, I don't expect people to have these like fully bugged out bags, but like, we need a bag that we can pick up and get out of whatever's happening. If there's civil unrest happening, things get weird. Yeah. Is something happening outside? Are there rioters? What's going on? Like, you need to, you'll choose if you stay or you go, depending on if natural disasters happening or power grids goes down. It really just situational. Yeah. The grid, like, some people are like, 10 days without power, we would have stayed. Like, we're fine. We have what we need. I would prefer to stay in my home. It's my safe haven, but if we need to, emergency plan. Where are you going? And if you're separated from your family, where's your meeting point? If something happens, you're like, okay, we always meet at the McDonald's north of town. I'll see you there. That's just an unspoken rule. And then having, just kind of a plan to make sure your safety is the biggest thing. And it really comes down to, you focus on your family. And you may see other people who need help, but it is your family that's top priority. So,
which is kind of an overarching like theme I'm starting to really realize. Is like, I think people have these overinflated views of like being heroic for other people. But the reality is like, when I think about like when I would use a firearm, or when I think about like emergency situations, it feels selfish. But at the same time, if you have this understanding holistically that like everybody has a right for their own responsibility and accountability, like they own that.
Whether they're,
then it's on me for me.
Yep.
And it's not selfish, but it's,
we are helpers, we're givers, we love. Yeah. But if push comes to shove, it is me and my husband and my dog. That's it. Obviously, if I see like a small child, maybe I'm like, get in, buddy, like, let's ride. But if it is our responsibility in our own lives to be prepared for whatever happens. And this is not something that we're not fear mongering here, but things do happen, and we hope that it never happens to us, but we can use the power grid going down as examples.
Totally.
Or something happening that we could have potentially, something happening to somebody. I hate that we have to learn from that, but okay, great. What could we do if we were in that situation to do it differently, to potentially save someone else's life or our life? So it's our responsibility to keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves healthy and ready to go, keep ourselves prepared for the world out there that is constantly changing.
Totally.
And you never know what's going to happen. So I just love feeling empowered when we're prepared.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I was already, even something so small as like getting my Blackstone, which is propane. I was like, I can cook.
And
Like how
Blackstones are sick too.
they're
So,
freaking sick. I love it. But
yeah,
also it's like, okay, check that off.
yep,
Next. Okay. My
yep,
next one is like my pantry. I'm gonna work on my
yep.
pantry. Next
Just
one's
keep
getting
it
my water.
organized.
Like,
And you can, if you
yeah,
live in a small house, buy plastic bins, put them underneath your bed. You
smart.
don't need a whole bunker, right? You
Yeah.
think of preppers as these. I mean, a bunker would be kind of sick.
It would
But
be
like,
sick, but
yeah, but like I'm not
slightly
like,
unrealistic.
yeah, I don't need a bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, storage of just like
Hmm.
plastic tote bins, put them underneath the bed.
Smart.
Just write the dates on them for expirations, and just
Smart.
know, just makes you feel good, especially if you have a family.
Yeah.
Your job is to take care of your family. And
Hmm.
that's the role that we play
Hmm.
if we do have children or like loved ones. Great. What do I have available to me if something were to go down? And you have the confidence to know everyone's taken care of. Good to go.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so safety within the home. A couple things that I learned, the last couple weeks is like simple things I can do to just for home safety is obviously easy ones are going to be like Ring cameras.
If you don't have cameras,
Then you're
get a camera, guys. This is like such
I
an
know
easy.
it's so
Such an.
affordable. Like
You can have someone professionally set them up too. You don't even have to do it. Or a Ring camera. We need some sort of surveillance, and it is a house deterrent.
yeah,
If someone's going to rob said house, someone's going to do whatever, and they have a bunch of cameras
mm-hmm.
or floodlights, I'm not going to go to that
No,
house.
yeah.
Yeah. So continue.
Okay, so I guess like Ring cameras. Another one that I learned was like on your deadbolts, like you can change out like those tiny little mini screws that like
They need
into like the giant, like change the little screws
Yep.
into like the 3-inch screws.
Because someone could literally kick your
Oh,
door.
somebody
if your
can-
screws
yes.
are this, or you guys can't see us, but if you have a 1-inch screw, that ain't gonna do shit for somebody kicking down your door.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Replace your screws
okay.
and your door frames.
How do you feel about having a safe? Do you feel like people have a safe? Okay.
Yep. Big advocate for safes, especially if you have small children coming in and out of your home, whether they live there or they're visiting. We always lock firearms away. They're unloaded, they're locked up, they're in the safe if there are small children involved in the household. Or they have the biomechanical, the fingerprint ones.
Yeah.
For safety. Obviously, if you're sleeping, the gun is useless if it is in a safe. But that's something you can potentially put away or have on your person if you're walking around the house doing stuff and leaving. So again, safety is like my biggest like priority. It has to make sense. So yes, safes.
Okay.
Valuables or firearms.
Okay. And how do you feel about the new thing that's kind of, I don't even know if it's new on the market. I'm just getting marketed towards it on Instagram. Is the stop box. Like the thing where like, it's like a box that you like put next to your bed maybe, and it has like different codes that you can punch in with your fingers. Have you seen these where you can just like flip open the case and your firearms just
similar to the fingerprint one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same. Okay.
Some people actually have really shitty fingerprints and they can't read them very well, so they have to use like a
little button code thing.
Yeah. But if it's nighttime and but if your kid's coming out of the room, obviously this is another discussion that you need to have of like, where does the firearm stay? But it needs to be obviously in a position where you're able to reach it quickly if something were to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, safes, big advocate for safes.
Okay. Cool. Another one is just like, especially if you have little kids, like you can kind of like drill like an emergency scenario like within your house and have a safe or code word, safe word, password, and you practice that word of like, this word means get in the bathtub, or like this word means, you have your family plan.
Or out in public. A safe word. If someone, like if you were a little kid running down the street and you lost your mom or that's not even a good example. So if a kid heard the word scarecrow or something, they would know my mom told you that word. She's the only person. So if a kid is talking to somebody and like, oh, your mom said, I'm going to take you down the road. What's the safe word? Or what's the word? You can have some sort of like, if she says scarecrow, you're like, okay, we're on the same then we're on the same team here. Like teach your kids to be a little skeptical, but also some people are just really there to help if something were to happen. So yeah, emergency plan, run through if you do have kids, even fire scenarios. That's part of home safety too.
Yeah.
Do your kids know to leave the door shut if a fire is happening? That's one way to prevent flames from coming in. Do you have ladders that you can toss out your second story window so that people can evacuate that way? Do they know to stay low to the ground? because they're going to want to run out and find you. But if the fire's in the hallway, do they know?
Sure.
And it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It can be something every month you like go through your fire plan. If a fire happens, you go out this window. Hey guys, remember if we have a fire happen, what do you think the best idea is? And let them cognitively remember it.
Yeah.
Repetitions with kids is so important because you want them to be able to think for themselves if they're obviously old enough to.
Yeah.
So yeah, just emergency plans if things were to happen, whether it's in real life, if you get lost, and a child, if you get lost, go sit on a bench. You give them instructions. They're going to be terrified and scared.
I remember my parents doing that with me. You know, when we moved into a new house, my dad kind of walked us through the house and was like, if there's a fire, you're going to go out this window and you're going to meet me on this corner.
Yeah, you meet me across the street at the mailbox.
And we drilled it.
Good.
And it's like, this is how you would get out the window. And so like, he literally would be like, kind of, so that was really interesting. And I obviously remember it to this day, you know?
And you have to, with children, like you have to continuously make it a game, make it fun, like make it a way that they're going to remember it.
Cool.
Yeah, especially, I mean, home fires can happen
immediately.
And do you know how to put out an oil fire? You don't put water on it, we smother it. Do you know to do that?
I didn't because I was
not you in general, but like in general.
No,
like
but I have a funny story with it. Yeah.
Where are your fire extinguishers? Do you have one in the house in the garage? Shit's going to happen in the kitchen. It needs to not be underneath the stove because the stove's going to be on fire, right? Are your fire extinguishers expired? They're not going to work as good. Your kids know how to use a fire extinguisher.
So just so much that you can already do without even buying anything.
You can buy fake and even just show, just practice. And we don't think about these things until our house burned down.
Yeah.
Started in the kitchen. Didn't know how to put out an oil or through the pan because it was hot. Put water on it, makes it worse.
Yeah. No, I did it in high school. No, I was house sitting and my friend and I had just gotten out of the pool. We were in our bikinis making popcorn on the stove. Yep. And we caught it on fire and the flames were coming up onto the microwave. You had no idea what to do. We took the spray nozzle from the sink, the hose, sprayed it. Yeah. At first it was terrifying. We did get it to go out. It wasn't the best option, but
that was great that you thought we put water on it. But if we're an adult and something,
it's like I probably could have had better.
They make fire blankets.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And the funniest part of the story is like we called 911 immediately just so we could get the fire department down. The fire department came in the like lead fireman situation. And my friend and I were still in our bikinis. It was like a man from church.
Oh my God.
So we're standing there like in our bikinis, like burning down somebody else's kitchen, and a man from church like walks in.
Oh, Kelsey, huh?
I'm like, I need to go put some clothes on.
Let me go put a shirt on. Hang on.
Yeah, this feels weird.
Let me go wrap my towel around.
Literally, it was funny now, not funny then. The other thing I was going to ask was, just like, I know this is going to just be very dependent upon everybody's skill level, comfortability level, but if you had a home defense weapon, what are some things to think about, consider? Obviously, you need to be okay with it, train with it, know where it's at, safety, all of that.
Correct.
There's talks of like, should you invest in a shotgun? Should you invest in an M4? Like, what should we consider?
The layout of your house is obviously going to play a big role where the entry points are. Things you can do obviously are cameras, door alarms. The door goes open, alarm goes off.
Smart.
Are your windows
That's so easy to put in?
Windows locked?
They're easy.
Yes. Lock your windows. Make sure the garage door is locked. The one that leads from the house to the garage, we don't think to lock it. Oh, it's in the garage. They can get through the garage. And then they go in through the garage door. So stuff like that. But tools. We have to think about calibers, obviously, too. Shotguns can be a great option. We don't want to be using necessarily a 45 because what is the penetration of that? Is that going across the street to your neighbor's house? If you miss, where's your child's room? Where are your children? Do we have just a general idea of layout of the house? Obviously, you live there. Those are some things to obviously consider. The goal is to get out of your house.
Sure.
We don't want to engage. So where are you going to go? Do you have a back door you go through? Do you climb through a window? Again, emergency light. And again, everything escalates so quickly.
Yeah.
But just do, and like pulling cameras up. If you can, we don't want to necessarily barricade ourselves in a room, but like that may be the only option for you. And you're calling 911, letting them know what's happening. You are armed. You want to over communicate if you were able to get on the phone with 911. But they are trespassing.
Yeah.
They are on your property. It is illegal for them to be there. And then home defense too, you have to know what state your laws are within the state when it comes to home defense on your property.
Yeah, like is it your property line or does
is it property line?
And I learned
is it the inside
of doctrine of your home? Like it has to be in your house, not on your property in North Carolina.
Yeah, is it on your front lawn? We're going to stay there. And I might shoot them from the window. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You're calling 911 and letting them know what's happening. I have 3 people wearing all black hoods. I am in my house and I am armed. Just letting you know I will use lethal force, and you leave them on the phone. Let the audio play.
Which also, fun fact, didn't know this, learned this week. When you dial 911, it immediately starts recording.
Yeah.
Even if they haven't picked up yet.
Yep. So if there's a front loading, if you hear scrambling or yelling, and they should pick up very quickly. That is their job, is to call, get your location, dispatch, and you just let them know as fast as possible. The police officers here. I'm being attacked. I'm self-defense, whatever it may be. And I do believe taking some sort of a home defense class would be valuable, because when we think of barricades, when we think of going through, if you hear somebody inside, are you going to move forward and clear the hallway and see if they're there? Do you know how to properly look around a corner? Again, your children in their bedrooms.
Yeah.
Like what if you see like, there are a lot of things that go into it, but I think if you are, especially if you have children and you're in a home and you have a firearm in your home or some sort of self-defense tools, preferably not preferably, but mostly a firearm, I think a home defense class is really important to teach you the mechanics of what it looks like to defend in close quarters like that.
And what are some organizations you would suggest looking out for?
USCCA has one.
Okay.
They have a home defense. I think the NRA has one. There are a lot of private companies that do home defense courses. So you can just Google your area. You might need to travel for one, but you can there's a ton of information online. Some are probably more reputable than others, but just look at the reviews, look at who the instructors are.
Cool.
Again, education can go a really long way, and just knowing what to do in a scenario just gives you that sense of confidence. It's not a false sense of confidence, because I think that can be a thing, is people think they carry a tool and it's this false sense of confidence. Nothing's going to happen to me. It's going to stop. But I want you to know how to use it, or what could potentially happen, repercussions, or again, practice those scenarios in your head. That can go a long way.
Totally. We went through so much.
We talked about a lot.
Is there anything last minute that you feel like is so important that I missed that you want to talk about? We probably got 5 more minutes until I got a boot from this room.
We covered, this is the most I've ever talked about, like self-defense and all of it, which feels good, right? Because this is something I'm really passionate about. It's just, for me, finding an outlet to provide this information in a way that it's very education and empowerment driven, and that can be able to reach people without being censored on social media.
Also, you're probably navigating how to bottle this information for your particular audience.
Yes.
Which it's like, there's a million Instagram accounts about home defense, guns, all this.
It's usually
it's
a bunch of dudes.
Exactly.
Which is fine. All about education.
But the most vulnerable population doesn't have a ton of information on it.
And that's the thing, is I don't know a ton of accounts that are necessarily talking about this. So I'd love to be kind of a front runner in, hey, how can we make this applicable and realistic? What are the things we can start doing in our everyday? What are these tidbits of information we can start doing in our everyday lives? Free. I give a ton of free educational stuff on my platform, but it may be worth investing in a course in order to get that more dialed in experience. But it's fun to talk about, for lack of better terms, because it's something I'm really passionate about, and I don't think enough people are talking about it in a, hey, you're a human being. This is potentially realistic in your life. So go out and read through all of my content that I have already. Go take a course, start playing I Spy games, start being a little more vigilant in your life. And it can really open up a lot of doors when it comes to like personal safety.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. This was a wealth of knowledge.
This is a lot.
So, and you traveled here.
It's only an hour drive. It was easy.
It was so selfless of you. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And hopefully everyone can feel better going out into the world and just keeping their eyeballs up.
Yeah.
And we will learn something. All of it. I have so much we can
give me all the notes. I'll dump them into the show notes.
Perfect.
Thanks, Bethany.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey.
Yes.
Woohoo!